Welcome back to Bat Month and taking a look at the Mafex. Was he a 6-inch, 7-inch? I'm not entirely sure. Batman figure from the Dark Knight, and also this is a Movie Masters Batpod. So there were a couple of different Batpods and Batman figures, and I decided to go with the Mafex Batman. I just thought he was a little bit more posable. He looked a little better posed on the Batpod. And the Batpod was a Christmas present quite some time ago, many years ago. And I absolutely love it. I actually prefer it over the more expensive version of the Batpod. And I like that it's a little bit more durable than the more fragile, expensive version. This is plastic. It's kind of rigid, so it might bust if you drop it, but it just feels like it has a little bit more give than some of the more really delicate, more detailed, model-y type of figures. Here's the box that the Mafex figure originally came in, and I don't believe that these were widely available in stores. Metacom, so most likely came from Japan, and a couple of the pictures on the back of the different stuff you can do with them. He is the version 2.0 of the figure, so you are able to swap out a couple of different parts. What is this? This is a stand. It looks like I've never even bothered to take this out. I guess you can put him into jumping, flying poses. He comes with a couple of different heads. He's got the unmasked Christian Bale, Bruce Wayne head. Pretty nice likeness for such a small scale. And there's another Batman head in here. He comes with two expressions. Whoa, his head just popped right off. I guess that's not on there very tight. So you've got the unmasked Bruce Wayne head. You've got the really intense looking teeth bearing Batman head, and then the more stoic, docile Batman head. I went with the teeth-bearing look, kind of just moments before he's about to run over the Joker in the Batpod. And the reason I wanted to go with this figure instead of the actual Movie Masters Batman, to go with the Movie Masters Batpod, is I just felt like this guy could pose a little better on the Batpod. A little better flexibility in all the joints, and especially talked about it during the stealth launch Tumblr, how important it is to have a figure that's able to properly look up enough when he's on a Batpod. Because most figures, if you try to put them on the Batpod, they'll just be looking down and it just doesn't look quite right. Need that extra little bit of neck articulation to arch up like that. So as a figure that's strictly meant for being posed on the Batpod, I think he's fantastic. As a figure that's strictly meant for just standing there and being a figure, I don't know if he's all that fantastic. He's really loose. So if he's just going to be a Batpod rider, that's cool, but he feels a little on the floppy side. Certainly a lot more floppy than like a classified figure or a Marvel Legends figure. The cape on it is really nice. It's actually got wires. Very nice material. And wires running all through it so that when he's on the Batpod, you can actually do stuff like that. So that it's flying up in the air, or you can just give it a pat and it'll come down. So the head really easily pops off, and it almost feels like that ball joint doesn't want to connect in there. Like that's not reaching. That's just sitting on there with friction instead of actually popping in with the proper ball joint. For being a premium figure, and especially an import, it's kind of disappointing when just a basic thing like a head peg doesn't pop on properly like it does on much more affordable figures like Origins figures. There's a look at Bruce Wayne as Batman. Comes with a number of different hands too. These are perfect for riding on the Batpod. And we'll pop on the last head. That one doesn't really want to catch either. No matter how much you wiggle, it just feels like this thing is sunken in too low. Comes with a fist on either side. So if you wanted to do a swap, it's actually really easy. This is a nice peg right here. It's just a straight peg instead of having like a little mushroom thing on the end of it. So you're less likely to break it when you're doing swaps. But man, that feels really thin and fragile. You want to take extra care when you're twisting that in there. Oh, that's worrisome. But you can take the old sound effects from the Batman 66. It popped right off. That's barely on there. And you can pop that sound effect on the fist and have Batman throw a Adam West style punch. This is getting kind of ridiculous. Everything just popped off this guy. These are barely held in there. Look at that. Both arms, and I was just trying to swap one of the hands, and both of the arms and the head, everything just popped right off. This guy is really starting to seem like just a display piece instead of a figure that you can even futz around with. This feels very, very fragile. It also comes with a gun gripping hand, which feels like I'm gonna break that peg. Comes with this gun from The Dark Knight Rises, and he also has the grappling hook, so you can hold either of them. You can two-hand this kind of rifle looking weapon. Alright, I'm about to bestow a moniker on this that I have only used for Masterpiece 5 Megatron. This is a disasterpiece. This looks really good, and it's really, really bad. Everything just keeps popping off of them, and it sucks. It just sucks. It sucks playing around with him, posing him. Yeah, once I'm done this review, back on the Batpod he will go, like he has been for like a decade, and never to be moved again. I'm trying to get him to two-hand this energy weapon. It's not gonna happen. Trying to get him in some nice poses for you, but it's not in the cards. Everything just feels so loose on this guy. Just so floppy and loose. He's got tons of articulation, but it's pointless if it's this loose. He's arching his back. It's just way too loose in the way. And then it goes the head again. It's he won't stand right. Yeah, not one of the best Marvel Legends sized Batman figures that have ever been made. There, that's about as good as I can do with this guy. He's even got a hole in his back, and it looks like there's a little post on the gun here that should be able to plug in there. And wouldn't you know it, it doesn't. It's not the right size. It's not it's not catching, so that doesn't work either. It's funny, he doesn't even have a peg hole in the bottom of his boots, so you can't even put him on a stand. You can use the stand that was included in the box. You pretty much have to if you want to do anything more dynamic than having him just stand there. And here's a 360 of the Batpod, which looks quite nice. I don't know if the paint job is all that screen accurate, but I really like all of the silver paint all over it. There's some really nice wash and wear on the tires to make it look like it's picked up some dirt. Great wash on the side parts as well. And as I mentioned in the stealth launch video, I just love knowing that these tires are the tumbler tires, that a piece of the tumbler lives on through the Batpod. So very weird design, doesn't look at all like any motorcycle, looks more like a Tron vehicle, stripped down Tron vehicle. I just love the Batpod, and even just sitting on its own, it looks wonderful, but looks especially good with this almost completely useless, unusable Batman figure who is pretty much only useful sitting on this Batpod. This is also an option, cool pose from the movie of when he stands up and just straddles the Batpod with his rifle and takes a couple shots with it. I've seen people do that with a Hot Toys figure and Hot Toys Batpod, and that looks really cool. So that's also an option in the Batpod. Keeps him from falling over. And here's the Batman back on the Batpod with his incredible cape. You can really see how well that wire system works. So that the cape is just blowing in the wind. Figure fits pretty well into the Batpod. The knees almost fit into the little knee recesses there, and the feet reach all the way back onto the back pedals, I guess they are. You can futz a little bit more just by twisting a hip. You can get those knees to sink a little bit deeper. It looks better if they actually go down and are hidden by this metal shielding. So little futzing, which is not fun with such a really fidgety figure. Yeah, once I get him posed up here, I don't imagine I will be touching him again, probably ever. But there he is, back on the Batpod. I don't know if these hands were actually intended for this, the hands that are just kind of like opened action hands, but they're perfect for gripping the steering of the Batpod. They wrap nicely around those, whatever they are, posts, without actually gripping them, and they reach forward enough to look like they're able to access the brakes, I guess these are. And the thing I really appreciate about the Movie Masters Batpod is look how bendy that is in there. So no worries about breaking that when you're trying to get a figure to properly grip the steering on it. And the only Batpod comparison I can do is my newly acquired 1/18th scale Batpod from the stealth launch Batman. Quite a bit smaller, quite a bit less detail, very much more toy looking, no silver paint applications on it, totally different paint look to it, quite a few details missing on it. So it's trade-off, you get a lot more detail on the bigger one, but it's a little more fragile. Definitely can't bang this around like this one. It can take a lot of abuse launching like a bullet out of that tumbler. And let's take a look and see how a classified figure can ride the Batpod since it looks like they are just about the same height of figure. I don't know if Snake Eyes here is going to have the range and the legs required to fit in this. Possibly. Oh, look at that. The head actually will have enough range to look up. So he has a lot more trouble fitting into a nice pose on this Batpod. He just does not have the range in the legs and the hips in order to sink the knees a little deeper like the Mafex Batman does. And even though he's got great range for standing poses and double handing a gun, for reaching into this tight quarters of the Batpod, he just feels all cramped in there too much. It's nice that the head looks up enough, but just that's like the one thing a classified figure can't do as well as the Mafex Batman can. So that's the Mafex Batman figure and the Movie Masters Batpod. If you are interested in getting one of these Mafex figures, you have been warned. Very, very fidgety. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Nerd Mistake.